Hello. I've been challenged by one of my students while we're on lockdown to cook some meals while I'm at home so he can have a bit of a look at it and check it out. So Brett, the challenge is open. Now, I understand everyone has their way of cooking spaghetti. This is not in any way any challenge for anyone out there that thinks they do it better. I'm sure many people do. Okay, we've got 2 sticks of celery, 2 carrots, 1.5 onions. I had half an onion left over on the bench, so I'll use that. I'm going to use 6 cloves of garlic, some salt. I'm not sponsored by these people, but this is what I have. A couple of cans of diced tomatoes. We'll use a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste, some cheap spaghetti, and about 500 grams of mince. I use the other half for homemade hamburgers. I've got a knife and a chopping board. I've got some vegetable oil, and I've got 2 pots. This one will be for the bolognese, give me plenty of room, and this one will be for the spaghetti, also giving us plenty of room. Before we do anything, I'm just going to put a small pour of oil into the pot. You can see it's covered the bottom of the pot. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, all vegetables, I've washed everything. This is going to be onion first, top and tail all the veg. That comes with all territory. Get the skin off. Top and tail. Make sure you cut enough off the end of the onion so that it doesn't clump together when you cut it. You don't want that happening. We're going to cut it in half, take the skin off. And then we're going to dice it in a cut that your traditionalists would call paysan, but your non-traditionalists would just call a small dice. So with your onions straight into your pot, it's not even on yet. Carrot, they've been washed. Again, same as the onion, top and tail. Then take your carrot, nicely cut, put that into your pot. That then goes into your pot. Next is a bit of celery, once again. Take you no more than a couple of minutes. Celery goes into your pot. I find the easiest way is to trim the root end off before you crush it, and this will hopefully allow the garlic cloves to fall out of their skin relatively easily. Garlic goes in. There's our salt. We're going to take a good pinch, sprinkle salt, a little bit more because salt makes everything taste good. And then we're going to put this on the heat. So we have our water on the boil, and that's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. We've got our vegetables in the pot. As you can hear, they're simmering away. That didn't take long at all. Once they've cooked for a little bit and softened, then we're going to add our mince. As you can hear, it's simmering away, cooking quite well, sitting in the oil and the salt and the vegetables. Every now and then, you must make sure that you stir it. And you can hear when you stir it, the sound changes. And it will tell you again when that was a bit hot. It'll tell you again when you hear the sound and it starts that searing sound in the heat, that it needs to be stirred again. Now, adding the salt does 2 things. 1, it helps the flavour. 2, it draws out the juices, which, as you can hear once you've stirred it, that's the juices that have been drawn out. There's a little bit of moisture in there. That buys you a bit of time, so there's less chance of you burning it as you wait. But you've got to listen, you've got to smell, and you've got to look all the time with cooking. Okay, while that's cooking, this gives us a chance to open our crushed tomato. This is the sort of tin opener I like to use. It's trustworthy, never fails, always works, never breaks down. So we're just going to quickly open a couple of cans of tomato. hear from our sauteing, that the vegetables are starting to dry up a little bit. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our half a kilo of mince, and just for ease of cooking, I like to just break it up as you let it fall into the bowl. One of two reasons: it makes it easier and quicker to cook, and two, it means that there's less chance of you getting lumps in your bolognese. Now maybe you like lumps in your bolognese, I don't, so I would rather that there weren't any lumps in there. You can cook it out, but it will take longer. So I find it easier if you just loosen up your bolognese. And when you have a look at the ratio of vegetables to meat that we have here, you'll see that we have approximately 1 to 1. We've probably got about the same amount of vegetables in this pot as we do mince, and I'll show you a picture of that in a second. Now, if you hear me grimace, it's because I fell a couple of nights ago and I damaged my ribs. They hurt like hell, so excuse me if I cry out in pain.
Okay, so you can put this in our pot here, but we have approximately, once you get all this mixed in, there's approximately the same amount of vegetables as there is meat. Now this will be about 5 minutes cooking so far with the vegetables, and we'll cook for about another 5 minutes, maybe not quite that long, and then we'll throw our tomato in.
As we wait for our water to boil, that's coming along fine. Okay, you can hear from the sound there that our meat is starting to fry up a bit. So a lot of the juice is now gone from the vegetables, and we just left with a little bit of the fat from the beef. We want that fat in there because we want that flavour. We don't want to cook that away. So I'm going to tip 2 cans crushed tomatoes in there. Going to put a little splash of water in there. We don't want to waste any of that beautiful vegetables that we've got there. Give that a quick rinse out. That's going to go in there as well. Okay. Make sure with your cans that you press those lids in. That way no one's going to cut themselves. We've got a new can of tomato paste here. The easiest way to ensure this opens up is to tap it right on the end here. And you can just hear the air seal then broke. It'd be terrible if it didn't open, wouldn't it? So I'm going to take 2 tablespoons, maybe 3, we'll see how it goes, to thicken and enrich this sauce. At least 2 tablespoons. I think already looking at it, we will go 3. That will probably be enough. Quite large tablespoons. We'll just clean that off a little bit on the end. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a little bit of oil in here. Any excess can go into the pot. And I'll pour a little bit of oil in here. And the reason I'm pouring the oil in here is so that when I put the lid on it, a bit of oil, I'll put the lid on. Just spin that oil around in there, so when you put this in the fridge, it will stop the tomato from oxidising. It'll last longer. Next time you open it up, hopefully there won't be any mould on top. Okay, so this is where we are now. As you can see, crushed tomato paste on top. We're just going to mix that in. If it needs thinning out, some people will put red wine in, some people will put white wine in, some people will put sauce in, some people will put port in. If it needs thinning out at all, I'm just going to put a splash of water. Keep it clean, keep it neat, keep it real. Let's have a look at our water. Water's nearly ready to go. Okay, with that water boiling, we've got our bag of pasta. This is going to be more than enough to just myself and my daughter, so we'll put in about half of it. That'll still be more than enough. Now, in that water there, yummy. So we'll just put a little bit of pepper in. Freshly ground is always best. We'll turn this right down to the simmer. And you can hear that the aggressiveness of the bubbling has toned itself down. That's just going to simmer away for a little bit. A screen, a pair of tongs with your pasta. You stir your pasta and you've got enough water there. It's not going to stick until you allow it to dry out. The pasta's going to take approximately 8 minutes thereabouts, and then we shall be done. If you're not sure, you can put a timer on. If not, ouch, get a bit, have a taste. That tastes perfect. I'm going to strain that off. Okay, you'll see here that there's a little bit of moisture left in the bottom of the pot. Some people will say you've got to put oil in there to stop the pasta from sticking. If you leave a little bit of water in there, that pasta is going to stick that up. But in the meantime, as we serve our dishes up, that tiny little bit of moisture in the bottom, that's going to allow it not to stick, and no need for any oils or butters or anything to go on top. However, that's up to you. There's our pasta, there's our sauce, and I'll show you in a second the finished product.